Nuances and Notes, the process. I had decided that for my next book, it was going to be similar to my previous one, Primary Ponderings, in that I'm going to make artwork and then have writing to go along with it. And the theme is going to be kind of philosophy, perspective that I have, that I approach life with. And for this one, though, Nuances and Notes, I want the artwork and I want the designs to reflect how I live and the philosophy that I live by, which is rooted in nature and approaching life with flexibility and adaptability, agility. Things that are alive are flexible, right? If we take one of these, got pricked right there. Okay, well anyways, you see right here, this rose here, it's flexible. Is it alive? I don't know. Things that are alive bend and they're flexible. Things that are dead are stiff and rigid and break easily. So we want our minds to be a little bit more flexible, more open. When they're closed, that's when they're easily broken, right? So I wanted designs to reflect that. And so kind of my mission then, and this is now May, June, July. Really around like, I would say May-ish. Yeah, this is now like kind of May. So I needed to go around the city and take photos of designs. Now, I started doing that in Chicago. I would just like spend I would spend a few hours, like downtown or, it was very passive at first. I would just, whatever I was kind of doing for the day, I would kind of just keep my eye open. That's what I kind of did with the previous one, Primary Ponderings. But I was also making artwork from my imagination with that as well. So it was a combination. The previous one was like combination of designs out in the world and also from my imagination. This one was going to be exclusively like designs kind of in public. And so passively I was going about it, and then I had a trip planned for New York in July. And that's when I really started the process. You don't know until you know, right? So I would I was staying in Brooklyn, and I would walk around Brooklyn, and I took a lot of photos of, these like stoops, that they have, these like stairs to these brownstones. I took a lot of photos of those, and then I would identify different areas in Manhattan that I thought would have designs. Now, I imagined, this is New York City, it's a big city, there's going to be a lot of designs. That was my approach, and I still had to... You kind of have to like deconstruct what we're looking for, right? We're looking for more floral kind of designs, more rooted in nature. Pretty soon I started to realize that there's like a window in which that architecture and that style is popular. And it was kind of late 19th century, early 20th century. Then after that, the modern art, modern era, modern movement became stripped down and geometric in shape. So there's less ornamentation. I was looking for that ornamentation. And so I go around Brooklyn, and then like each day I would go to different areas. So the Upper West Side, Greenwich Village. I went to the public library, and I would go inside and take a bunch of photos. I would go down to Soho, Nolita, Tribeca, Lower East Side, Upper East Side, all these different areas, and just take a bunch of photos, right? And then when I would get back in the evening, I would put them in the program and then see how they turned out. So that was good. It was like on the ground. I was practicing. I didn't think it was practice at the time. I'm just trying to just get as many as I can. And that's like all I did. And I would take, like 700 photos a day. So then we're left with, a few thousand photos by the end of the trip. But I just did not feel great about New York. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, Chicago has better designs than what I'm seeing. And I thought it was so strange because New York is supposed to be this mecca of culture, and it's one of the biggest, and it's the most notable city in the world, right? And it didn't perfectly satisfy what I was looking for. All right, so then a few weeks later, this same band that I started working with, Bone Lane More, they had a tour in London, so I came with them. So I'm recording 5 sold-out shows in London, all in like different neighborhoods across London. And this was the first time I'd been to London, and like New York, approaching New York, I thought this is going to be a great opportunity for me to take design photos. So Bone Lane is playing with Hobo Johnson, 5 sold-out shows all around, kind of like in these little like pubs, these smaller venues. It was really intimate. And I would show up at sound check around like 6 p.m. and then the shows would go around like 8:30, 9, and then they'd be done by 11, and then we would go out, hang out for a little bit, and then I would, wake up and I would try to get design photos, just walk around different places, and I would constantly be looking for these designs. Again, more nature, more fluid, more flowy. And London was kind of like New York. It was sort of hard to find. I did find stuff, but with London, it was interesting because everything was very rigid and based on like perfect shapes, like perfect circles, perfect rectangles, perfect squares. And it was kind of jarring. It was kind of like overwhelming in that it didn't feel playful. There was like no playfulness, it seemed like. It felt like this overbearing kind of I don't know the word. But I also noticed when I was going around London, there was this punk scene that I'd never seen before. And everybody in London, a lot of people, London was so expressive, but it seemed like there was this vibe where people were either in one of two categories, posh or punk. So posh being more like dressed up and kind of in line with, the whole royal family and that type of thing. And punk would reject kind of those society norms. And I'd never seen this polarization or this culture that was like one or the other type of thing. And I think it has a lot to do with the architecture and the design. Like, you have the design that is kind of, it's not allowing people to play in a sense. And it was, to me, kind of like drab and boring and restrictive. I want to say maybe that's the word, restrictive. But London, regardless, still an amazing time. It is a great city, and the shows were amazing. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the time and the opportunity and all the people I met. And so while I was in London, I'm going around like every day taking these photos, and I wanted to go to Paris. I knew that Paris would have the designs I'm looking for. I remember having been there back in 2020. I remember there were like a lot of heart-shaped things, and just kind of asymmetrical, just kind of, I don't know, just kind of like different kinds of shapes than just your circle, square, rectangle. And I tried booking so I had one free day. So after all the shows were done, I had one last day, full day. And the day before this, I went to the train station, and I was going to take a train from London to Paris. And I wanted 6 hours. So I wanted to take the I think it was the Eurostar. And I'd looked at this previously, like a few weeks prior, and it would have cost me like 30 pounds one way. So then total, I was thinking it would be like 70 pounds round trip. So I get to the train station, and I'm talking with the ticket guy, and planning this trip. And it started becoming this whole logistical thing. And instead of the like 70 pounds round trip, it would have been 368 pounds round trip, which was like $460 US. And I would have had 4 hours in Paris instead of the 6 that I really wanted. Because I was coming from a perspective, from my own experience in America and Chicago, of taking the metro train, and you just hop on and you pay like $10, and it takes me to where I want to go in Wisconsin, and then like that's that. You just show up at the platform, it picks you up, blah, blah, blah. This was organized more like an airline. And so then you got to get there ahead of time. And then there's boarding and check-in and assigned seats and supply and demand type of thing. The closer it was to that date, the higher the price. And, I just didn't really look into it. And I handed the guy my card because I was going to do it. That's how much I wanted these designs in Paris. Because I knew they would be pivotal to what I'm trying to accomplish. And then just like last minute, I'm like, actually, can I get my car back? I don't think I'm gonna do this. And he was perfectly understandable. He was quite nice about everything. Because I thought, one, I really appreciate peace of mind. And if I did this, logistically, it would be such a headache for me for those 4 hours. And I I would get what I needed in 4 hours. Or I could spend like another $100 and fly round trip direct from Chicago to Paris and stay like a week. So that's what I decided to do. So after the idea came about, then I started practicing, right? The idea of this book and the designs that I was looking for, that was kind of the next step, is just practicing, finding these things, finding these designs, taking photos of them, and in New York, London. And then I booked this trip to Paris. In the meantime, I want to get Chicago done before my trip, so that Paris is the last that I need. So I broke Chicago down. Since I live in Chicago, I've had the luxury of taking more time with it. And I would break it down into neighborhoods. And then one day I would go to a neighborhood, walk around, and take photos. And then I've developed quite not elaborate, it's pretty simple. Just like a digital file organization and folders to keep track of everything and organize them and label them. So it'd be like the date and then the neighborhood. And so in Chicago, I would just keep doing all these different ones, but I found that the designs are going to be reflective of the dates that the buildings were built in, right? So it started to come along like the like kind of the closer to the water, because those are going to be developed first. And again, we're looking at late 19th century, early 20th century, these kinds of buildings and structures. So I'd go through all these different neighborhoods. Eventually, my friend let me borrow his e-bike. And then once I got on an e-bike, I just started cranking through these every day. It was like 3 days a week. I would just go out and to these different Chicago neighborhoods and take photos. And to the point where I knew more and more what I was looking for and refining my photography and how I took photos, the kinds of photos, and it always made my day. And just taking a photo of one design brought me so much joy. So it's like, I'm taking a photo of this right here. One, it's beautiful. I love it. Now I have this photo, and it's a digital asset that I can now use and show it in a different kind of way, repurpose it. And that was just so exciting to me that a week before Paris, I finished all my Chicago designs, and I don't even know how many Chicago photos I have yet. But it was really a great experience, and I just love that process of going from, I have this idea, to, okay, how do we accomplish that idea? What are we looking for? And just like breaking it down, and then just going out there and practicing. Going to New York, going to London, going around Chicago, and just finding what I'm looking for. We often find what we are looking for, but we have to be precise, and we have to be aware of the knowledge before that, right? There's all this tinkering within the process, and I really enjoyed that, so that by the time I went to Paris, I'd be ready to go. I'd be ready for Paris.